stand up to the regime. Let your voices be heard. There you see people in the Texas State Capitol building protesting on behalf of the courageous Democratic State Representative Nicole Collier. The Midas Touch Network broke that story. Last night, I had the privilege of doing an exclusive interview with State Representative Collier from the floor of the Texas State House, and she told us how she was kept hostage and they had locked her into the room at the request of Governor Abbott and the Trump regime in order to try to avoid Democrats blocking the Republican scheme for their racist gerrymandering. Then we saw the protesters show up. It's so important that we continue to do that impact journalism here at the Midas Touch Network, but all credit is due not to us, but to the protesters, the people out on the street. As corporate news tries to suppress your voice, we will uplift it here on the Midas Touch Network, like this incredible group of protesters yesterday who showed up to support President Zelensky as he and European leaders stood up to Donald Trump and said, "You ain't giving our land to Putin, not now, not ever." Look at these incredible protesters with their taco signs, their Ukrainian flags, supporting democracy around the world. Watch what happened yesterday. Let's play this video. And then, of course, shout out to all the people on the ground in New York's 21st Congressional District who were booing that fascist Congresswoman, Elise Stefanik. You booed her off stage. It was incredible. Watch what went down. I'm going to do a whole video on it, but I'll just give you a taste and a sample here. Play this clip. And then shout out to all the courageous Ukrainians in Ukraine who are fighting for their right to exist against Donald Trump's buddy, Vladimir Putin. Now, I showed you yesterday that the Russian tanks are now riding along with American flags next to Russian flags. That pains me so much, but it is incredible to see Ukraine test new weapons like its Flamingo ground-launched cruise missile as it builds up its arsenal with the help of Europe, no longer really with the help of the United States, but Ukraine saying we are defending our territory. We want a ceasefire, but if Russia thinks that we're going to hand them over Donbas, Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, ain't happening. Watch the new missile they tested. Play this clip.
And there he is, President Zelensky, as he showed up into Washington, D.C.
yesterday. He didn't need a red carpet or Donald Trump clapping like a fanboy. Trump just does that for fascists. Zelensky showed up with the power of Europe behind him. But what did Donald Trump want to do yesterday? Like the clown that Donald Trump is, he just wanted to show French President Emmanuel Macron and Finland's President Stubb and Zelensky his gift shop. Yep, Donald Trump has a gift shop right near the Oval Office where Donald Trump brings world leaders and shows them his hats that say 4 more years, Trump 2028. What a sicko. What a humiliation. The most pathetic president, frankly, most pathetic human, but ever to just be in that Oval Office. That's what you're showing. Remember last week I showed you the video of Donald Trump with the Azerbaijani dictator and the Armenian leader, and Donald Trump was like, look, this is my Trump 2028 if I decide to run again. Again, the American people hate you, Donald. That's why you're trying to rig the midterm elections. Your approval has never really been lower, the lowest in presidential history. You are hated. You are detested. You are a vile, weak piece of trash. The American people stand up to you and your fascist regime. One of the other points that deserves more attention as well. So the whole point Donald Trump claimed that he was going to get from Russia when he went to Alaska was a ceasefire. But then when Putin said no ceasefire, just give us the land from Ukraine. We want Donbas. We want Zaporizhzhia. Then Donald Trump tried to bully Zelensky via social media posts to turn over chunks of land. And Zelensky and Europe were like, yeah, then you got to bully us on social media. F no, we ain't giving you our land. But then today, Donald Trump was claiming that, look, Russia has agreed to Article 5 of NATO-like protections, where a European army will be able to protect Ukraine. If Ukraine, you give up just some land, you can have Article 5 protections. I heard it from Putin. And also Zelensky, Donald Trump said, Putin's willing to meet with you and do a trilat. That's what Donald Trump calls a trilateral agreement. Do a trilat. We'll do a trilat. Well, right after the meeting with Donald Trump and the European world leaders, while Donald Trump was frankly with the European world leaders, Donald Trump left for 40 to 45 minutes. We learned what went down on that phone call shortly after, but what Putin told Donald Trump on the phone call is, we do not agree to Article 5 like NATO protections with a European force ever in Ukraine. We will not allow that. And Putin doesn't want to meet with Zelensky. We can have high-level officials meet, but Putin ain't meeting with Zelensky because Putin is a coward. He is a coward authoritarian fascist who does not want to go face to face. He prefers to meet face to face with Donald while his foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, wears an USSR shirt and brags about Imperial Russia taking over America, while Donald Trump and his MAGA sycophants go, yay, Putin, yay. So utterly humiliating. But yes, Putin's put out a statement, and a Russian state TV put out a statement saying Putin does not support Article 5 guarantees. Putin does not want to meet with Zelensky. Putin does not want a ceasefire. Okay, so what the hell were you doing there, Donald? All right, but what was important, though, I think, was Zelensky and Europe making the point, you're not going to pick off Ukraine. Europe is united. Ukraine is Europe. Europe is Ukraine. The UK, France, European Commission, Finland, very close to Russia, of course. We're united against Putin, and we're going to stand up to you, Donald. Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, then writes, our main goal is a reliable and lasting peace for Ukraine and for the whole of Europe. Notice how they bring Europe into the sentence. Critical. And it is important that the momentum of all of our meetings lead to precisely this result. We understand that we shouldn't expect Putin to voluntarily abandon aggression and new attempts at conquest. That is why pressure must work, and it must be joint pressure from the United States and Europe and from everyone in the world who respects the right to life and the international order. Hint, hint, Donald. We must stop the killings, and I thank our partners who are working toward this end and ultimately toward a reliable and dignified peace, together with the leaders of Finland, United Kingdom, Italy, European Commission, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. We coordinated our positions ahead of meeting with President Trump. Ukraine is ready for a real truce and for establishing a new security architecture. We need peace. That's brilliant right there. But here was Donald Trump at the meeting with Zelensky and the world leaders. You could just take a look at French President Emmanuel Macron's face, how sick he is of Donald Trump. Like he looks at Donald Trump like, you're putrid, you stink, you smell, you're gross. And then Donald Trump's like, I think you're going to find that Putin really likes you. He wants to do a deal with you. He likes you. Shut up, Donald. Here, play this clip.
That we have such big unity today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much,
for hosting us.
Mr. President. I think you'll see that President Putin really would like to do something else. I think when we set that up, when we do, I think it's going to be when, not if. I think you're going to see some really positive
moves. But Putin is now the expert on American voting law, and Donald Trump is getting his views on American voting procedures from Vladimir Putin, telling Donald Trump that, Trump, you really won the 2020 election. Mail-in ballots rigged it against you, Donald. And then Donald Trump's like, you know what? Mail voting? Putin told me we don't like mail voting. Here, watch this.
Mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with
redistricting. Believe me, again, that's just so utterly embarrassing. And this is what he said. Donald Trump said that he got the advice from Putin. Here's what he said to Hannity. Play this clip. Vladimir Putin said something.
One of the most interesting things, he said, your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting. He said mail-in voting every election. He said no country has mail-in voting. It's impossible to have mail-in voting and have honest elections. And he said that to me. It was very interesting because we talked about 2020. He said, you won that election by so much. And that's how he got it. He said, and if you would have won, we wouldn't have had a war. You'd have all these millions of people alive now instead of dead. And he said, and you lost it.
Because of mail-in voting, it was a rigged election, but mail-in voting, Sean, Donald Trump then posts a bunch of nonsense, said we had a great meeting, we're a step closer, Putin wants to meet with Zelensky, Article 5 guarantees, and our corporate news here in the United States will publish that and go, you see, Donald Trump says that Putin wants to meet with Zelensky. Donald Trump says that Putin agrees to Article 5 like guarantees. Donald Trump says, when you start a sentence with Donald Trump says corporate news, can you do me a favor? Just smack yourself in the face. Donald Trump says smack. Donald Trump says smack because Donald Trump's a fraud. Okay, Donald Trump is a convicted felon. Donald Trump is a sexual abuser. Donald Trump is someone who's bankrupted all of his businesses, or most of, not all of them, to be fair. Many, many, many businesses have been bankrupt. Many, many, many a casino have been bankrupt. So I don't know. Maybe don't trust the Donald Trump says because he's a liar about everything. Oh, by the way, folks, here in America, while we're in the United States, while all of that was going on, give you a heads up, dairy products will now be subject to 50% steel and aluminum tariffs. Yeah, that makes sense. Dairy 50% steel and aluminum tariffs. Why? Because Donald Trump said. Dictator boy said. Also, we now have Mississippi joining South Carolina, West Virginia, and Ohio to give National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. Yeah, Jackson, Mississippi has the nation's highest homicide rate, more than 3 times the rate in D.C. And when we look at red states in general, we take a look at MAGA Mike Johnson's district. Also, super high crime rate in Louisiana. Yeah, red states, red cities tend to have significantly higher crime. But sure, Mississippi, you give your National Guard to Washington, D.C. again. So completely pathetic. But folks, today we also saw Secretary of Defense, former Fox host Pete
show us that he does not know how to do pull-ups. He did a pull-up competition with RFK Jr. Yay, so good. As our editor-in-chief
Filipkowski said, when they were each nominated, this is pretty much what I expected of them to be doing over a year and a half in. We have a state, I'll do a whole video of this next, so just come back and check out our videos every 90 minutes. James Comer, House Oversight Committee Chairman, he's saying DOJ's not going to be sending the Epstein files today, even though the subpoena is due today. Very complex, everybody. They're going to start giving us some files on Friday, then they'll dribble the files out thereafter. Yeah, we know that's part of the cover-up. I'm going to do a whole other video on the cover-up, the violation of the subpoena right there. And we'll keep you posted every step of the way here at the Midas Touch Network. And subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.